So this morning I was going to talk about something this isn't polished or anything. It's just what I looked up this morning. I was really discouraged by the people of God being so dishonest. I've had so many experiences where people here that are of the faith want exorbitant wages and they do poor jobs, or they don't do the job at all and then they expect to be paid. And it's just, I wanted to look it up in the Bible so we can try to help each other, because if the people of the world can be more honest than us, there's something wrong. We're not on the right road to the kingdom. We're really on the wrong road. So God will bring, and I wanted to bring the story of J.C. Penney. So J.C. Penney was a Christian. He wanted to be a pastor. It did never work out. And so he began to work in business, and he was the first one to put price tags on things. In other words, before that time, you come into the shop and you'd barter on whatever it was, and there was no price tag. You didn't know what the price was, and you didn't know what the actual value of the item was. So not only did he put a price tag, but he paid how much he paid for whatever it is. So you knew what the markup was, right? It was extremely honest and forthright. And it became, people tried to kill him because he did that, because everybody was then demanding the value of what the merchant had paid for it and the price he was marking up on, because it was strict honesty. People knew exactly, there was no underhanded attempt to make money. The price was fully out there. Later on, he developed what they called a department store, where you could buy food. Before that time, stores were specialized. If you wanted hammers, you went to the hammer store. If you wanted food, you went to the food store. If you wanted clothing, you went to the clothing store. So he came out with a department store, and he became the most successful businessman in the United States and formed a close to a whole chain. J.C. Penney's is kind of departed from, later it became Sears and Roebuck. Today it's called J.C. Penney, still after him. But it became one of the most successful business out of pure honesty. Right? And today we expect God to bless our medical missionary work, which isn't really, it's theft, or our other ministries, and we don't act in strict integrity. We don't tell people what prices are. We manipulate. We prey on the innocent in the time of their medical emergency, or when they're sick. We prey on the innocent, and it's not a medical missionary work. It's a preying on the innocent. It's a wickedness in the sight of God. And then we expect to not be cursed by God, or to, not receive a blessing from Him. And you see this so much, and then it's so discouraging, because the medical missionary work is to be the entering wedge. It is to be the witness that helps people come into the gospel of the true Advent movement. But instead of this, is turned into the opening wall, which prevents people from coming into the truth, because it's so badly done. And then other people that are supposedly medical missionary workers turn people into the traditional allopathic medicine, which is condemned by God. They want scans, they want this, they want that. They want you to spend money on all this stuff that's unnecessary, and they have no knowledge of medicine or anatomy and physiology, and yet they claim to be medical missionaries. They have no training, and even the training they have is insufficient, right? And we see this everywhere, and so it's just, or another brother of mine, and then God has called us to have children to be born through midwifery. Instead of being born through midwifery, going to doctors. Why? Because the midwives are so bad. They're so bad. They're untrained. They don't know what they're doing. And I do not agree with the degree system. That's something from the papacy. It's demonic. But at the same time, you better do what you claim to know. The people can have a degree and still be untrained. So it doesn't fix the problem. But there's just such a lack of knowledge, common sense, anything out there that you can understand why people are they don't want to have anything to do with anything, right? Especially those that are claiming to follow God, and then yet They don't, right? So God will bring every work into judgment, including every secret thing, whether it's good or whether it's evil. So every time you manipulated somebody, every time you tried to charge them more, this is Ecclesiastes 12:14, God will bring it into judgment. And the wicked things that you did, God knows. He sees. God tests men and women by their daily life. But many who make high profession of service to Him cannot bear this test. In their eagerness for gain, they use false weights and deceitful balances. The Bible is not made their rule of life, and therefore they do not see the necessity of strict integrity and faithfulness. So I hear this all the time. Well, I have to charge you more because somebody else didn't pay. No, that's not how it works. That's not the biblical guidelines. Biblical guidelines, written in the spirit of prophecy, is all pay a fair wage. Taxes, it's all the same percent on the rich and the poor. You don't use Robin Hood papal economics to run your business. You will be cursed for that. Nowhere in the spirit of prophecy does it say that we charge the rich man more and the poor man less, or the poor man nothing and the rich man, just give us a big donation. No, that's not how it works. There is clear guidelines for what things cost, and you charge the same no matter who it is, right? That's integrity. Like in some Central American countries, you're an American, it's twice the price, whatever it is, right? This type of deceitfulness is weighed in the balance that's false balancing. The Bible is not made their rule of life, and therefore they do not see the necessity of strict integrity and faithfulness. Anxious to amass wealth. And some of them claim they're not, but they are. They allow scheming dishonesty to come into their work. The world watches their conduct and is not slow to measure their Christianity worth by their business dealings. The Bible always tells the same story. This is sin. Sin is always sin, whether committed by professors or professors of millions or the beggar on the street. It doesn't matter whether I'm the beggar on the street and I'm trying to sell you something, and I'm a homeless person, I'm trying to sell you something for a high price because I want whatever I need. It's still sin. It's still wrong. Better a life of deepest poverty crowned with God's blessing than all the world's treasures without it. We may be very rich, but useless. We have the conscience that God honors us. We are poor indeed. Sorry for telling another story, but worker here, I didn't have much money. I told him, this is what I'm going to pay you. This is all I have to pay you. It was during the pandemic. And he lost his job because he refused to be forced to receive a medical treatment. So he comes and works for me. It's hard work. Digging in the dirt, moving logs, hard work, mosquitoes, insects all day. He works for me and works for me and works for me. But he never quits. He completes the job. Right? Later, I was low on money. I didn't really have more money to pay him for anything else. But he was honest in what he did. He didn't try to connive. He didn't try to manipulate to get more money. Now I have him on as a full-time employee. He works whenever he wants. I can fully trust him. He comes whenever he wants, right? But I can trust that when he comes, he will give his best effort. Is he perfect? No, he doesn't always put his tools away. There's things he does that are not always right. But I compare that to another person I had working for me that was constantly trying to raise his salary, doing poor work, manipulating whatever he could do to gain money. Right? He took advantage of every time I was in need. I needed to go for the birth of my wife. I needed someone to take care of my mother. He manipulated the price to try to get the highest price he possibly could. This person no longer works for me. Right? He's dishonest to the core. Right? His wife is too. Both claim to be Seventh-day Adventists. So when someone is in need, you help them. And don't expect to be paid by anybody but God. It doesn't matter what emergency. If someone is in an emergency situation, there's no emergency charge. When someone needs money and they need to ask for a loan and they don't have, the reason they're asking for a loan is because they don't have money, charging them interest, especially in the family of God, is wickedness. It is sin in the sight of God. Now, yes, charging interest is appropriate when someone's making an investment to make more money, right? It's not an emergency for them. They're not in a down and out situation. That's different, right? But when someone is in down and out, you help them. You don't take advantage of them. You don't whip a dead horse, right? False balances are as an abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight. What does that mean? That means that you charge according to the market, right? If you go out to the market, a watermelon's worth this price, you charge somebody what a watermelon worth. It doesn't matter whether it's grown on your organic farm or whatever. Now, if you want to charge more, you tell people what the price is and why it's higher, right? But to charge them extra after that you've given them the watermelon is wickedness. That's deceitful balance, right? You're not going to be able to sell something for more than the going price for it. And if you think that you're so special, that your labor is worth more, and you just have to be paid more because your name is whatever it is, you have something coming. You don't understand how business works, right? Now, if it costs you too much to make the product and you can't make it for what it is, and you can't sell it for that price, well, I recommend you make it for yourself only then, right? And if you can tell someone what the price is, and if they want to pay you for that price, that's fine. But it is dishonest. Remember, we were selling our house. To begin with, I thought it was worth a lot more money than it was worth. Okay? So I said, look, I'm going to have it appraised. How much are other properties around it sold for? Right? And so I said, look, we're going to have it appraised. And then God convicted me. He said, look, Sean, I love everybody on planet Earth. If you were to sell your property for an unreasonable price, you're cheating someone else. And I said, you're right, God. I would be cheating someone else, even though I think it's worth more. So we went at the appraised value. We sold it for the appraised value. And God bless. God bless. People called me back, oh, you should have sold that property for so much more. You should have sold it for so much more. You know, taking advantage of people and looking to get the highest price for something, yes, property value is going to go up. And just because property value isn't going to go up doesn't mean I'm going to get it all out right now, right? I invested that property, another piece of property, and this property I'm certain has gone up in price. But we're not about money. And if your ministry is about money, and you say, well, I'm just trying to make ends meet. Well, if you're trying to make ends meet, then you want to sell things at a fair price. The account of every business and detail of every transaction passes the scrutiny of unseen auditors. Who are those unseen auditors? Angels of heaven. Agents of him who never compromises with injustice, never overlooks evil, never palliates wrong. Education, page 144. An honest man, according to Christ's measurement, is one who will manifest unbending integrity. Deceitful weights and false balances with which many seek to advance their interest in the world, an abomination in the sight of God. When man is indeed connected with God and is keeping his law and truth, his life will reveal the fact. For all his actions will be in harmony with the teachings of Christ. He will not sell his honor for gain. His principles are built upon sure foundations, and his conduct is in worldly matters is a transcript of his principles. Firm integrity shines forth in gold amid the dross and rubbish of the world. Testimonies of the Church, 4:310. Those who choose honesty as their companion will embody it in their acts. If you're honest, you're going to act honest, right? To a large class, these men are not pleasing, but to God they are beautiful. From Radiant Religion, that was Testimonies of the Church, Volume 4, page 607. From Radiant Religion, page 44, you can also find it there. Financial speculations are Satan's snares. What are financial speculations? That is speculating that I'm going to get a bunch of money if I engage in this business practice. Instead of saying, look, I'm going to work for an honest wage. This is the honest wage. I know I'm going to get paid this much at the end. Speculation is speculating on me making a lot of money. So how can speculation be carried out? Well, it can be carried out with the lottery. It can carry out with gambling. It can carry out with the stock market. That you expect it to go up this much. Now, I'm not saying that all stock market is speculation, but a lot of it can be. Okay? So what is another speculation? Another type of speculation is I'm going to sell you a service, or I'm going to give you a service that I think is worth a bunch of money, and I'm not going to tell you the price till we're done. That's speculation. You're gambling on the fact that I'm going to be manipulated into paying a high price for a service that I didn't know cost this much, or I didn't even know it was a service. So we need to be that is speculation. That is dishonesty at the highest level. That is manipulation. And we should not manipulate people, right? If somebody calls me and you want to charge me, you tell me before it ends that you want to charge me, right? Or you refuse to answer the call saying this is what's going to be, right? But don't speculate that I'm going to be giving you this much money and then be angry that you didn't get it, right? Financial speculations are Satan's snares, laid to catch the soul. In all business transactions, the only safeguard for a man is love and fear of God. In our world today, there are seen the same dishonest practices that prevailed before the flood, swept this earth of its moral pollution, which prevailed in Sodom before the fire from heaven consumed its wicked inhabitants. Satan engrosses men's minds in dreamlike prospects of great gain. So it doesn't matter if it's great gain, I'm going to get this by giving this service to somebody. It's like the people in Central and South America. You go to park your car, and someone's sitting there saying, look, I'm going to protect your car. And what are they hoping? They're hoping that you're going to give them a big check when you get back, right? It's not a prepay, it's a postpay. And they're expecting a certain amount of money. And if you don't know what that amount of money is, they'll try to wreck your car. That's speculation. It's dishonest practice. You didn't tell the person what it was going to be before you left. And you're offering them a service they didn't even ask for. In fact, you're forcing them to receive a service in most cases that you want to give them, but they don't even necessarily want you to watch their car, right? This is dishonesty at the highest level. And in their greed for gain, I think it's common in Central and South America and the Caribbean. And we find it in the Caribbean population that this dishonest practices. You know, during the Protestant Reformation, they used to sing for their supper, right? The students that didn't have enough money for their supper, they would go sing, and Martin Luther used to sing for his supper. Did you know that Martin Luther, when he became a reformer, he outlawed singing for your supper? Even though he was involved with it? Why? Because he saw it as a dishonest practice. They also made illegal any type of begging because it's dishonest. You're begging for something that you didn't perform any useful labor for. Begging was outlawed. Now you could go haul wood for somebody, you could chop wood for somebody, and if you agreed to a price, that's what you would pay. But it was decided that begging was dishonesty during the Protestant Reformation. And that was true. It's dishonesty. It's dishonesty then, it's still dishonesty today. And yet we go out on the beggar and we encourage the beggar to continue to beg because we'll give him money. We forsake the fatherless and the widow. But the young man on the street that's begging, we feel good. We can give him some money. We can go buy him a lunch. He hasn't done any labor. He hasn't done anything that is deserving of pay. What does the Bible say? It says that those that refuse to work should not be paid. Right? Satan engrosses men's minds with dreamlike prospects of great gain, and their greed for gain. Those who yield to him make representations which are positively untrue. So what do they make? They make representations that are positively untrue. They try to talk you into the fact that they performed some great service for you when you know they didn't, right? It was on, I called someone this week for a friend, got disconnected, didn't even ask a question, was on the phone for a couple minutes, and then I received a huge charge, right? This is, and then they tried to tell me that they just performed a wonderful service, right? And they deserve a very high price for their work. No. Those who yield to him make representations and they didn't tell me what the price was to begin with. Representations which are positively untrue. God and truth are forgotten. Instead of entering into speculation, let those who know the truth find some steady, honest employment. Medical missionaries, find a steady, honest employment. If you're a carpenter, work as a carpenter and do your medical missionary work on the side. Don't expect somebody else to pay for your medical missionary work, right? Do some honest work on the side. You have rentals, do your rentals, right? You have whatever it is, you do that honest labor. Instead of speculating that somebody else is going to, and the church and somebody else has to pay for your support as a medical missionary, right? Honest employment in which they can earn their living in a way that glorifies God. You're depending on others and getting mad at all the time and others aren't paying your way. That's entitlement, and it's not honest labor. It's some type of, I don't know what we want to call it, beggary, right? It's like the guy in Central America, South America, that you go up to the thing and you want your and you're getting gas and he washes your windshield and then he wants you to get paid for it, right? Now they outlawed that. You can't do it at the gas station anymore. The guy at the gas station will wash it for free because you're buying gas, right? Instead of somebody coming up, you didn't even ask your windshield to be washed. Somebody comes up and washes it, and then they expect to be paid, right? These things are dishonest. The integrity of the upright will guide them, but perversity and unfaithfulness will destroy them. I know people that do construction work the same thing, and then they get upset. Well, I did this work for you. Well, you didn't tell somebody how much it was going to be paid. You just went and did the work for them, and then you expected them to pay you. No, that's not how things work in life. That's even declared by almost every government on earth as dishonesty, right? Christ has said, a good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit. Neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. So when you see these fruits in people, you see it's an evil fruit. You see it's an evil character, right? Therefore, by the fruits you will know them. The deeds of people's lives are the fruit they bear. If they are unfaithful and dishonest in temporal matters, they are bringing forth briars and thorns. They will be unfaithful in the religious life and will rob God in tithes and offerings. Let me bring up something else about J.C. Penney. He was the first to introduce a guarantee. If you were not satisfied with the product that he provided, you could take it back, and he would give you a full refund on the money you had paid. If you were discontent with the product, you could take it back. Now, you couldn't take it back if you'd broken it, or if you'd done something else. That's dishonesty, okay? But you could take it back if you were not fully satisfied with the product. He only sold quality. Then everybody began to demand guarantees on the products that they purchased, that they were of good quality, right? And so, if I provide you a service, and I work for you, and you're not satisfied with what I do, I should provide a money-back guarantee if I was honest. If I'm dishonest, I'm going to demand to be paid for a service that I didn't render, partially rendered, or did a bad job at, right? I'm going to demand payment. The Bible condemns in the strongest terms all falsehood, false dealings, and dishonesty. Right and wrong are plainly stated, but I was showing that God's people have placed themselves on the enemy's ground. They have yielded to his temptations and followed his devices until their sensibilities have become fearfully blunt. A slight deviation from truth, a little variation from requirements of God, is thought to be, after all, not so very sinful. When peculiar gain or loss is involved, but sin is sin, whether committed by the possessors of millions or the beggar or by the beggar on the street. Those who secure property by false representation are bringing condemnation on their souls. All that is obtained by deceit and fraud will only be a curse to the receiver. Receiver. The least departure from truthfulness, rectitude in transgression of the law of God, continuing indulgence in sin, accusation, accustom the person to a habit of wrongdoing. So we are causing other people to sin if we pay them for doing us wrong, and we continue to pay them for doing us wrong, or other people continue to pay them wrong. They don't get paid. They did something wrong, they suffer the consequences, right? There's no way to continue on with this type of dishonest behavior. We can't enable sin in others. But does not lessen the gravity, the aggravated character of sin. God has established immutable principles which we cannot change without a revision of his whole nature. If the Word of God were faithfully studied by all who profess to believe the truth, they would be dwarfed in spiritual things. Those who disregard the requirements of God in this life would not respect his authority were they in heaven. These people aren't going to make it to heaven. They're cursed. To be like Jesus, page 177. Thou shalt not steal. Exodus 20:15. Both public and private sins are included in this prohibition. The 8th commandment condemns man stealing, slave dealing, and forbids wars of conquest. It condemns theft, robbery. It demands strict integrity in the minutest details of the affairs of life. It forbids overreaching in trade. It requires the payments of just debts of wages. It declares that every attempt to advantage oneself by ignorance, weakness, or misfortune of others is registered as fraud in the books of heaven. So what is registered as fraud in the book of heaven? If you take advantage of somebody in their misfortune, what's that? That's a medical emergency. When you charge somebody afterwards, that's in their misfortune. Because they're in a situation where they need your help, you take advantage and charge them high wages. That is misfortune in their lives. And whether it's misfortune because somebody lost money and they need to take a loan and you charge them high interest, or whether it's misfortune in the medical emergency, it is a sin in the sight of God. And it'll take you to hell if you don't repent. Let's read that. It forbids every species of dishonesty, injustice, or fraud. However prevalent, however palliated by plausible pretense. Well, I have to do this to make money. Well, I need to charge more because you woke me up in the middle of the night. Whatever it is, right? No. Somebody is in trouble, you help them. Thou shalt not steal is written by the finger of God upon the tables of stone. Yet, how much underhanded stealing of affections is practiced and excused. There's another type of theft. That is when you try to steal a woman or a man's affection, and in order to get something out of them, right? And it can happen in marriage as well. I treat you good if you give me what I want in marriage, right? No. I treat you good because you are a child of God and because God died for you. And if you want to be bad, you can be bad, right? But I'm not gonna not fulfill my promise to you to love, care, protect you, right? Am I gonna make you feel the consequence of decisions? Yes. But I'm not gonna break my promises, right? I'm not gonna try to steal your affections and steal a woman's affections to get what you know what out of her, and then once I got it, then I go ahead and go about my life. That is theft. People are raised on theft. And I think that's the reason that people today are so wicked. We steal each other's affections when we're young, and then when we get old, we continue on in dishonest practices. We've come from the world, we've, commit a home run, whatever they call it, with all these women, and then, or men, it goes both ways. Women can be just as wicked. And then we decide we're going to live our life that way. No, we don't take advantage of people. A deceptive court system is maintained. Private communications are kept up. That is, you got to be forthright. Let the mom and dad know what you're talking about. No excuses. If the mother-in-law was on the phone every time you're talking to that woman, right? Until the affections of one who is inexperienced and knows not whither unto these things may grow, are in a measure withdrawn from her parents, and placed upon him who shows by the very course he pursues that he is unworthy of her love. The Bible condemns every species of dishonesty. If you're going to talk to a young lady, there's no problem. There should be no problem with father being on the other end of the line, listening to every word. If you would say something different, you were acting dishonestly. To trifle with hearts is a crime of no small magnitude. Like I'm going to call him my brother because he's like my brother. Jeremy said. He says, if you tell somebody you love them too soon, you are trifling with hearts. You don't even know what love is. First date, you go out, you tell the girl you love them. No, that's not how things work. You don't tell somebody you love them until the relationship is established, and then you show fruits of love. Are you going to commit to that person for the rest of your life? And don't ever commit to someone who isn't committed to God. That's trifling with hearts. That's the highest form of wickedness. Or you're a pastor, and you expect the congregation to support you when you don't teach the law and the testimony. You preach falsehood. You support the organization, which is destroyed religious liberty, and you expect to be supported as a pastor? No, I'm sorry. We have the right to support. It is part of the fundamental liberty for us to support pastors which support the Bible and the spirit of prophecy. And if you tell me I have to pay to a central organization who is trampling upon liberty of conscience, that is a sin in the sight of God. We are dealing with our fellow man in a pettish dishonesty or in more daring fraud. So we will deal with God. Men who persist in a course of dishonesty will carry out their principles until they cheat their own souls and lose heaven and eternal life. These people, you're going to lose heaven and eternal life. Don't continue in this course. So long as heaven and earth continue, the holy principles of God's law will continue, a source of blessing, sending forth streams, refreshing the earth. From Sons and Daughters of God, page 63. The religion of Christ transforms the heart. It makes the worldly mind that heavenly minded. Under its influence, the selfish man becomes unselfish, because this is the character of Christ. The dishonest, scheming man becomes upright, so that it is second nature to him to do to others as he would have them do to you. When you're in a bad situation, you want someone to take advantage of you? Is that the way you want life to work out? The profligate is charged with impunity to purity. He forms correct habits. The gospel of Christ has become to him a savor of life unto life. Shall I count pure those with the wicked balances and the bags of deceitful weights? An honest person, according to Christ, that's Micah 6:11. An honest person, according to the Christ measures, is one who will manifest unbegging integrity. Deceitful weights and false balances with which many seek to advance their interests in the world are an abomination in the sight of God. Yet many who profess to keep the commandments of God are dealing with false weights and false balances. When men and women are indeed connected with God and keep his law of truth, their lives will reveal the fact, for all their actions will be in harmony with the teachings of Christ. They will not sell their honor for gain. Their principles are built upon sure foundations, and their conduct in worldly matters is a transcript of their principles. Firm integrity shines forth as gold amid the dross of rubbish of the world. Deceit, falsehood, unfaithfulness may be glossed over and hidden from the eyes of humanity, but not from the eyes of God. The angel of God, who watches the development of character and weighs moral worth, records in the books of heaven these minor transactions which reveal character. If working people in the daily vocations of life are unfaithful, slight their work, the world will not judge incorrectly if they estimate their standard in religion according to their standard in business. And I think that much of the self-supporting ministry has received a bad name because of the dishonest way in which it is practiced. And the entitlement that the saints of God have to support you. But they don't have their own ministries that they can support. They have to support your ministry, right? You're the one that needs to be supported. You have this special knowledge or privilege, or you make the tincture in the right way, and you can't pass that on to somebody else to help them. No, you're going to guard all that information. If you guard the information, you will receive no new word. He that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much. And he that is unjust is in the least is unjust in much. It is not the magnitude of the matter that makes it fair or unfair. As men and women deal with their fellow citizens, so they deal with God. You're not sinning against God when you do this with man. You're sinning against God. Those who are unfaithful in the mammon of unrighteousness will never be entrusted with the true riches. The children of God shall not fail to remember that in all their business transactions they are being proved, weighed in the balances of the sanctuary. So my appeal to you today is let us do everything with integrity. And let's not establish our own standard of integrity. Let's look to the Bible for what integrity is. We're not going to go and do what Sam and Sue or X, Y, and Z does. We're going to do what God specifies as integrity in His Word. And let's not try to excuse, misconstrue our integrity, because if we do that, we're unrepentant and we can't be forgiven and we're not.